we have, again, this is going to be a surprise, and they're not going to be here very long, but we have hold on, give me 1 second. Let me get this go. All right, sorry. The Houston Rockets. Now, you're going to be like, wait, what? How are the Houston Rockets even relevant, and how are they even good? Well, a couple things that stand out to me here. They've been playing out of their minds in the last week, winning 4 straight games, second longest win streak in the NBA, offensive rating of 22, ranked 22 in the league, and defensive rating of 18th overall. And, they've just been winning games. Dylan Brooks, all of a sudden, is like a guy, he's like a man on a mission. Effective field goal percentage of 71.1%, fifth among 139 players with at least 50 field goal attempts. I mean, he is absolutely carrying over what he did in the international play in the offseason into this season. He's been, you couple his defense with the fact that he can shoot now, and he's being consistent with it. It's crazy. The fact that the Rockets here are playing as well as they are, do I think they're going to stay here? No. Don't trust this team to be here later on, but it's not sustainable. They are going to hit some bumps, but after starting 0-3, they are playing very well. And so I wanted to throw a bone to the Houston Rockets. Again, it's either them or like the Indiana Pacers, who ranked almost dead. Actually, no, they are dead last in defense in the NBA. So I'm just like, how do I give a team that ranks dead last, given the circumstances of what they're doing in the NBA season this season already? I can't put them up here. I got to give the Rockets their flowers for this list, number 10. I know the Rockets stink, Austin, Texas girl, but they were just going off of what we've seen up to this point. Cuban, Lakers are now the best team to ever get swept and the best team to get blown out by the Rockets. Exactly. See? The Rockets got something going. Again, only time we'll ever see the Rockets on this list, so enjoy it while you can. Number 9, we have the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns coming in on this list at number 9 because they have one of the best starting lineups you could possibly have in basketball. They haven't been able to get the starting lineup all together on one team, and for very much this season. Devin Booker came back from a 3-game absence, put up 31 points, 9 rebounds, 13 assists against the Spurs. By the way, lost twice to the Spurs. The Spurs have their number. But, then he missed a couple. Then, you're trying to get Bradley Beal back. They're not able to get Bradley Beal in the rotation quite yet, but he's in the mix here coming up in the coming week, I think. So, Suns, very good offensive rating, top 15 in the league. I think they rank 13th overall. So, doing pretty well on the offensive side of the ball. That's only going to get better with everybody coming back. Then they're playing defense. You could accumulate some of those aspects to, some of the moves that they made. They got Nurk in there, even though Nurk hasn't been, you would have figured he would have been a better offensive player or a defensive player and offensive player coming in from Portland, but he hasn't been able to do much offensively. Not very good. But that doesn't change the fact that once this team is all put together, they're going to be in a good spot. Right now, currently, they're 4-4 on a 2-game win streak in the 7th spot here for the Western Conference. So that is good enough to be number 9 on this list. But yeah, Austin, Texas girl, agree. I've said this, and I still agree. They rely too much on jump shooting, and they don't have a deep roster. They don't have a deep bench. So when it gets time to playoffs, this team is going to be a great regular season team. It'll be a team that can win a lot of games in the regular season. But when the playoffs turn around, you're going to see exactly the same thing you saw against the Nuggets team, who, when you get into a physical matchup with a bigger team that has a deeper bench, it's going to be a lot more difficult for this team, who relies way too much on jump shooting, to consistently hit those tough shots over and over and over against teams that can get into the paint, that can make things happen. And you know what? It's one of those things where, yeah, sure. Let them have a lot of regular season wins. They're going to have some success. They still need to gel. They haven't played together. So, I'm a truck driver. I'm actually enjoying the stream at a truck stop here in North Carolina. Nice. That's awesome. You could take us on the road, Austin, Texas girl. You take us on the road, ActionLab. I mean, if you want to listen to some NFL content, it's even better too. We got a little bit of everything for you. So, hey, those long drives, I know we could keep you company. So let's go ahead. Let's get to number 8. Number 8 is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City, 5-3, winners of 2 straight, and sitting at number 5 in the Western Conference. The Western Conference is stacked, and this young team has been able to get it done early on. Honestly, I feel like this team, I was high on this team before the season started, and I'm still high on them to do something moving forward on this season. I think they're going to be in that maybe 8 seed when it's all said and done, 7 seed when it's all said and done. But this team has been very, very good, and they have a lot of young talent. They have all these draft picks. They have everything you would want from a team that is building and doing it the right way. So Chet Holmgren has been very good offensively. I think he's been a bright spot, and he is right now behind, obviously, Victor Wembanyama for Rookie of the Year. But I have a nice little bet on Chet as a dark horse to win it all. We'll see. But if he could come away with Rookie of the Year, that would be incredible. The Thunder, 10th overall offensively from the offensive rating standpoint in the NBA. Defensive rating is where they need to button things up a little bit. You pick up a guy like Chet Holmgren, or you get him healthy and playing all season long this year, and you expect some of those defensive numbers to get a little bit better, but they still rank in the bottom third defensively in the NBA from that standpoint. So it's the splits. The Thunder are 3-0 against the Eastern Conference, and they started out 0-3, and then 3-0 against the Eastern Conference, 0-3 against the Western Conference. So we know the Western Conference is a little bit tough this year, and they're just struggling a little bit in their own conference. But they were without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander against Golden State. So a couple things going on there, but overall, Thunder are the only team to have allowed more than 130 points per 100 possessions in multiple games against Denver and Golden State. So again, they need to button up the defense a little bit, but overall, they have too much young, good talent to not love this team more than, anybody else. I mean, they're so much fun to watch. Let's see. Let's go Cowboys. Cowboys got a big one. I hope he doesn't list Memphis. They are horrible. Luckily for you, Austin, no Memphis. No Memphis. Trust me. I'm not putting Memphis anywhere near this list. What's up, hometown? How are we doing? Welcome in. All right. Next up, we have the Bucks. Now, the Bucks, as you can see on the screen, lost tonight to the Indiana Pacers. And the Bucks, let's be real, they haven't been good from what we were expecting. They get Damian Lillard in the offseason. Everyone's expecting them to click right off the bat. I knew they weren't going to, but I didn't think it would be like this. Currently, Milwaukee is 25th out of the entire NBA, ranked 25th in defensive rating. And that's with Brook Lopez. That's with Antetokounmpo. That's with everything that they were just banking on. And what happened is they lost all the defensive presence that they had with Drew Holiday and some of the guards on that team. And Damian Lillard is not a guy that's going to lock up a lot of guards on the perimeter. So, you take an L when it comes to the defensive side on the guards for the Milwaukee Bucks, but it's just perplexing. And I think they're going to get things better. Milwaukee's going to rise these ranks, and I feel like they're going to be in a good spot. They haven't figured out their pick and roll with Dame and Giannis yet. They haven't, gotten into a good rhythm. It's just they're not in a place where they feel like, they're going to be at least by middle of the season when it comes to the All-Star break. They're going to be a lot better at that point. But the Bucks ranked 28th in opponent field goal percentage in the paint, which is shocking with Brook Lopez and Giannis. It's shocking. I didn't think they would be that bad, but otherwise, like, this team has a higher ceiling than a lot of other teams. I thought they were going to be the favorite to go to the NBA Finals, and I still do think that, but they need to get things rolling here. Offensively, they're looking okay. They're at number 12 overall in offensive rating in the NBA. So they're the only team that's in the top 6 or 7 on the Eastern or Western Conference that have a negative point differential on the season. So it's not a great start. Damian Lillard is the problem with the defense, Texan girl, 100%. And they lost a lot. People were like, "Oh, Drew Holiday, yeah, we can lose Drew and be okay. We got Dame Lillard. We got the best duo in the NBA." And that's not the case. You gave up arguably the best perimeter defender in the NBA for more scoring. And you're seeing that reflected here this season for the Bucks. And you kind of wonder to yourself, like, once this gets on track, are they, this may be all, in the past, in retrospect, we're like, okay, yeah, like, don't worry about it. But I think it's going to be worrisome come the playoffs if they can't figure that out. And it's going to be tough. There are a lot of good guards that can torch the Milwaukee Bucks on the perimeter. This was something that I discussed in my season preview for the Bucks. And again, they're going to improve, but they're not good defending on the outside. It's not a place that they have a strength. So they come in here at number 7. Fayetteville is trash. I'm outside Charlotte now. Hopefully you can move soon. Yeah. There you go. Bucks number 7. Number 6. There we go. We got your Mavs. Chris, I also thought assistant coach Terry Scott's leaving. Yeah, 100%. 100%, Texan girl. I thought the fact that they had a little bit of turnover on that side of the coaching staff, definitely going to be an issue that they can't fix. They can't really do much about that. So that's tough. But I have your Mavericks here at number 6, and I think that they're going to be climbing this list, Texan girl, because they are absolutely balling out. If it wasn't for their defense being ranked defensively 22nd in the league, which I think is going to get better, I think that they would be a lot higher on this list, but I am ecstatic with what I've seen from the Dallas Mavericks so far. Number 2 overall from an offensive efficiency, Luka Doncic is playing absolutely insane and just putting this team on his back, making a case for his MVP year here. And I mean, honestly, by the end of it, we always talk about the slow starts for Luka and how it kind of hinders him a little bit when it comes to MVP voting. He's not slow start out of the gates this year. I'll tell you that right now. Luka is leading the lead in clutch scoring. 25 points on 8 for 11 shooting. Grant Williams has been a nice addition to this team as well. So I feel like they've been playing really, really well as of late, and they are number 2 in the Western Conference behind the Denver Nuggets at 6-2. They dropped one most recently to, who was it? It was the Raptors. So unfortunately for them, they still lost that game, but still find themselves above Minnesota, above Golden State, and some of the other best teams in the West when the West is completely stacked. So I'm young, but this team reminds me of those old Phoenix Suns Mike D'Antoni teams. Power offensive, but no defense. And there is something to that, Texan girl. They do have a top third in the league pace when it comes to pushing the ball up and down the court and playing on like a faster speed than what they're used to. So you're not far off with your analysis on the fact that they're kind of like a run and gun Mike D'Antoni. I think they still, it's not quite the same, like, when it comes to like how Mike D'Antoni's run the pick and roll and do some of those aspects of the offense. But yeah, you're not super far off. But yeah, it's been nice to see the Mavs get it on track here. Would you call it a 7 seconds or less offense? I wouldn't. It's not quite there. I mean, Luka likes the ball in his hands, and sometimes Luka, is kind of slower up the court. So I wouldn't always say that it's consistently that. They have the ability to, but I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't classify that as this early. And who knows? Maybe that trends that direction over the course of the season. But it's not like they're playing at a faster pace. I mean, Golden State Warriors play at that fast pace. They kind of carried over that from the old Mike D'Antoni style offenses. So you kind of see their pace pretty quick. But otherwise, yeah, I think Dallas is knocking on the door there. But good stuff from your boys there. Texas girl coming in here at number 6. I think they're going to be in the top 5 or 6. No, your knowledge is. Hey, I love you asking questions, and that's why you're here. We're talking some hoops, and we're learning. I mean, there's stuff that I talk a lot of hoops on here, and there's stuff that I'm always learning. So keep asking away. I love it. That's what makes this community so great, is the fact that people can come in and feel comfortable asking those types of questions whenever it feels like, you just don't understand what might be going on from a team standpoint, from a just NBA basketball in general standpoint. So love it. Next up, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I gotta say, they're the surprise of the NBA as of right now. They have absolutely shocked everybody with how they've been playing. They're the best defensive team currently that we've seen consistently over the course of the season, and they're ranked so. They're ranked number 1 in defensive rating, only allowing 101 points per game, and top half of the league. They're 14th overall offensively, and that's due to everything that they have been able to get from their stars. As far as just some of the key factors of this, I think Jaden McDaniels coming back after the injury in the playoffs last year has been a revelation for this team. Defending, he's probably the best defender on the perimeter in the NBA as we sit today on November 9th, 2023. He is absolutely crazy. He made his debut this past Monday, and I mean, he's been scoring 106 points on 83 offensive possessions, scored to just 55 compared to just 55 on 59 for the lineup from other players like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So he's adding from an offensive standpoint, but he's also adding from, that defensive perimeter where he's just shutting guys down. The Timberwolves have handed their first loss to Denver and Boston, and looked good doing it. They shut down Jamal Murray against my boys, the Denver Nuggets. So, I mean, he's been good. And we haven't even talked about the star player, Anthony Edwards, who's absolutely been going off this season for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's been just putting up crazy numbers, 38 points, including 8 in overtime when they beat the Celtics this past week. So they've been crushing the top teams in both conferences. So they are definitely turning people's heads a little bit. I didn't think they would be good this fast. I knew they were kind of on the upswing, but not this quick. Let's see. Grizzlies are going to be number 1. Rec, what? They're number 1 in your heart. How about that? Right? There you go. No longer looking like the doughboy. According to you, it's not hard to shut down Jamal Murray. I mean, he's shut down now because he's hurt. That's all. People, it's a running joke that that I hate Jamal Murray, and that is the furthest from the truth. I'll tell you that. So Minnesota coming in here, and again, they are right behind Dallas Mavericks. They're 5-2, winners of 4 straight. So it's just crazy to me to think that we saw that trade with Rudy Gobert, and we were like, oh, they just doomed their team into the Stone Age. But, I mean, Rudy Gobert's been playing better defensively. He's already been a really solid defensive player, but he's turned a different corner this year. So, yeah, Spurs coming up for the Timberwolves next on their schedule. So, all right, let's get to the next one here. The Golden State Warriors, who just dropped to my Denver Nuggets last night, after we got off the stream, we kind of talked a little bit about the Golden State Warriors. Now, they have played and looked really, really good this season, both close to being top 10 in both categories, offensive and defensive rating. I think defensively, they're 12th. Offensive rating, they are 9th. And still, net rating of plus 4.5 on the season. So they are been playing impressive basketball so far. It looks like, Draymond Green came out and talked about how the culture is different this year. How the Warriors culture last year was just sucked. You hated coming to work. And it's just, this year is a completely different vibe, different team. They've started out stronger and they feel like they mesh well. They've gotten a lot more from their young players. Kuminga and Moody have been contributing and they're learning a little bit on the fly here, but they need them to, because they need some athleticism and they need some aspects of, what they can bring from a youth standpoint, defensively and offensively. The issue I have is what I saw last night with Golden State, and that was the fact that they just lack size and athleticism. Like, against some of the bigger teams, I just think that they struggle in rebounding. They were rough in rebounding against the Denver Nuggets, who are a bigger team than them. And they rely a ton on jump shooting. And I know they get into the paint a little bit with Steph Curry, and Steph Curry finishes in the paint a ton. But it's just from a Golden State Warriors standpoint, I was hoping that they would go out and get some bigger bodies. But when your biggest guy is Kayvon Looney and Draymond Green, and that's your big lineup, you're going to be at a disadvantage when you go against teams like the Bucks, the Suns, the Bucks, the Nuggets, the Lakers. Some of these teams that just, you force a team to shoot from the perimeter when Steph's maybe not hitting his shots, or Clay has been getting older. He hasn't been able to continuously hit the shots from game to game. Maybe he has a couple games that he goes, off, but it's tough. Being ranked that good in defense is rare for the Warriors. It is. You're right. Compared to last year when they were absolutely awful. Also last year they were absolutely abysmal on the road. They couldn't win a road game if their lives depended on it. If someone held a gun to their head and say, "Hey, win a road game," Golden State wouldn't have survived. This year, 5-2 on the road. So they've fixed that, but they've only had 2 home games. So, they're going to get better on that front. I don't follow football as I do with basketball. You have a comment here. How can Clay guard a big guy like Jokic? Yeah, it's because the NBA, there's a lot of switches, and the Nuggets are very good at finding the switches and making it so that there's mismatches. So they'll put a switch or a screen on a guy like Clay so that he ends up on Aaron Gordon or Nikola Jokic, and it ends up being a problem. But for any teams that end up winding up having to guard those types of switches, and they just can't efficiently do it. So you're on point. And it's just the way the Nuggets try to make those things happen. So they were successful last night in making some of those. But yeah, Golden State, I think, they're impressing me a lot more this season than I thought they would. Coming into the season, I figured they would be kind of hovering around that 6-7 seed potentially, and they still have a chance to be down there. But from what I've seen so far, I have a really strong feeling they're going to be a top 4 or 5 team in the Western Conference this year, just based off of just the veterans on that team. They're absolutely one of the best coach teams in the NBA. And they have just really good. I mean, you have your all-star in Steph Curry. You have some, really good role players right next to him. I mean, elite role players like Clay, if he's on shooting. I mean, it's hard to take away from what they can potentially do in their ceiling. They just need to get bigger somehow. Maybe at the trade deadline, but Golden State comes in here at number 4. I read they were happy with dumping Bob Myers, who was micromanaging the team from and there was a couple changes in the offseason. I think they switched GM. They made a couple adjustments on the roster themselves, so shipping Jordan Poole out. Jordan Poole is kind of clowning it up, putting up empty points for the Washington Wizards, who are 2-5 this season. So it is what it is. The Nuggets make you pick out your own switch, says Cuban. I mean, the Nuggets are masters in making switches happen. And you saw that a lot of the playoffs last year. You see it a lot this year. Number 3. And I could have probably swapped interchangeably the 76ers and the Boston Celtics. I believe more. The only reason I have the 76ers down here is because I believe a little bit more in the Boston Celtics as we sit now than I do the 76ers roster, even though the 76ers are the hotter team on a 6-game winning streak, leading the Boston Celtics by a full game and number 1 in the Eastern Conference. So Philadelphia 76ers come in. They've been absolutely balling out of their minds based off of just the fact that Joel Embiid and Maxey have been putting this team on their back. So they've been playing very well. They're one of the only couple teams in the NBA that rank top 5 in offensive and defensive ratings as we sit today. And they've been doing it on both ends of the floor. James Harden, we thought was going to be an issue when it comes to being a distraction. Hasn't been an issue for the Philadelphia 76ers. Tobias Harris has been playing out of his mind as well. Effective field goal percentage of 71.9%, 4th best among 139 players with at least 50 attempts. So Tobias Harris, is Tobias Harris one of the most underrated players that, no one talks about Tobias Harris, but he's consistently one of the better players in the league when it comes to just like a good role player that knows the role and just does it at a high level. He's always making things happen. Pole stunk in the playoffs last season. It was a blessing they dumped James Harden. Yes, 100%. They needed to get rid of him. And honestly, I think the Clippers are worse with Harden. I saw a couple highlights, or lowlights, I should say, of James Harden the other day playing for the Clippers, making a bunch of mistakes. I know it's only one game. It's his first game, and he made a bunch of mistakes. But I think the Philadelphia 76ers don't have to worry about someone disappearing from their roster in the playoffs now, which is awesome. But Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey are 2 of the 5 players who have averaged 25 points and 6 assists per game. Embiid has recorded assists in 18% of his possessions, by far the highest rate of his career, so he's passing the ball more efficiently. There's a lot to like about what the 76ers have been doing, given the circumstances of what happened in the offseason. James Harden is always out of shape whenever he wants to go to a different team, Texan girl. It's just like, remember when he had the fat suit going into Houston when he didn't want to be there anymore? And people call it a fat suit, but he was just super overweight. Then he goes to Brooklyn and he all of a sudden looks 20 pounds, 30 pounds lighter. And you're like, wait, what happened? Bruh. What happened to that? What did you he just gained weight in the offseason? He just doesn't have, in my opinion, James Harden is an elite talent, but just doesn't have his mind on basketball as a number one thing. He's always got other things that I feel like he's focusing on. It's going out at the parties. You always see him at the clubs. How he prefers all the night action out there in all the different clubs. You name it. And it's hard for me to say that the NBA and basketball is his number one priority throughout the course of the season. So it is what it is. I never got James Harden. He goes from fit to fat to fit to fit. I mean, pretty much.
Roger.
Yeah, it's pretty much that way. 100%. So, but I'm really, really encouraged. I hope the Philadelphia 76ers can possibly dethrone a couple of these teams the way they're playing. Everyone's all about the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks. You might want to keep an eye on the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm just saying. He got the Kardashian curse. He did. Yep. He stunk after he went out with the one sister. The Kardashian curse. It's no joke. I mean, you got to watch out for it. You know, all the players that have messed around with Kardashians, it's not good. They need to do an investigation into that, probably. I mean, it's too much, right? It's too much. It's crazy. All right, let's get into the top two here. And Boston Celtics here. Boston Celtics come in at number 2. And the Boston Celtics are probably one of the better looking teams that we've seen so far this season. They just dropped their first game to the Minnesota Timberwolves, as we mentioned earlier on when we were talking about Minnesota and how they're kind of surprising teams. But, I mean, offensively, they've been the best team in the NBA. Number 1 rated overall team, scoring 124 points per game. Defensively, number 7 in the NBA, only giving up 106. And, yeah, they're just looking really, really good. So they have made a lot of moves in the offseason that have really been panning out for them. And bringing in Porzingis, Drew Holiday. We talked about Drew Holiday not being on that Bucks team and how they've lacked a lot of efficiency on the defensive side of the basketball. Well, I think the Boston Celtics picked up that from this start of the season. The Boston Celtics last season were still both top 5 in both categories, offensive and defensive, last season for a lot of the year. But yeah, this has been a big boost for the Boston Celtics early on. Derek White, he's been a nice player coming out for Boston, adding those minutes off the bench and being a really good, solid contributor. Last season, the Celtics started 21-5 with their offense having scored on an amazing 3.6 points per 100 possessions, more than any other team. They're off to a similar hot start this year, having scored 4.8 more points per 100 possessions than any other team. So offensively, they're just clicking. So they have the best net rating. They're winning games so far on average by 18.1 net rating. So that's massive for them as well. But they come in here at number 2 number 2 on our fantasy rating. Let's see. What a cool. Hey, appreciate that, Texan girl. Appreciate that. Yeah, again, we're here every Thursday. And again, Wednesdays and Sundays, we have a lot of fun. You don't need to know a ton about football to join in and have a great time with us. We do some Sunday night football bingo. We're gifting out subscriptions to our channel. We're doing all sorts of cool things. So make sure if you like it, keep coming back. We appreciate you being here. Absolutely. I know this is NBA Power Hour, but I'd like to derail this stream with NFL Trivia Bet. You win, I gift 2 subs. I win, I got to get as many people as possible into my stream tomorrow. Let's save it for the end, Rec. Let's save it for the end. And we'll maybe. We'll see. Because right now, we'll see. I might take you up on it, Rec. We'll see. NFL trivia has been I haven't been, once the NBA started, I kind of switched gears a little bit on some of my, you got to give me some easy ones. You got to give me a fighting chance on them. But I'm curious. I'm interested. All right, number 1, the Denver Nuggets. Austin, Texan girl. I'm a Nuggets fan. I'm born and raised in Colorado. This was an amazing win for us last season to win the NBA Finals, and it was just incredible. And you know what? It's hard for me after what I saw against the Golden State Warriors and what the Nuggets have done against some of the top teams. They've played the Mavericks, the Thunder, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Pelicans have been playing well to start. Now they kind of fall off a little bit. But Nuggets have had, somewhat of a tougher schedule, and they've really been just feeling like they picked up right where they left off last season. Currently sitting at 8-1, leading the Western Conference in the NBA standings. They're doing it without Jamal Murray last night. Jamal Murray wasn't available, and he won't be available for the foreseeable future, i.e. the rest of this month at the very minimum. He's got a hamstring issue, so he's going to be out. But, that didn't really stop the Nuggets from being able to score when they needed to. And that's when Nikola Jokic switches. It's like the Crocs. When you have those Crocs, and have you ever heard it's like turning him into sport mode? That's what Jokic does whenever he doesn't have anybody helping him out on the scoring. And he turns into scoring. He turns his Crocs into scoring mode offensively. And he didn't have a lot of assists last night, but didn't need to. Guys weren't really hitting shots as frequently as they probably needed to. But Nuggets, what's surprising about them, and the story probably more so than anything else, is the fact that they're top 6 in defensive rating this season, which is crazy. The Nuggets we knew are going to be, they're one of the most unstoppable offenses in the NBA. No one has answers for the Denver Nuggets. They're 6th overall, scoring 117 points per game. But defensively, they are only giving up 106 points per game, which ranks 6th. To put that into context, last season they started out in the mid-20s, the low 20s. And at the end of the season, got to about 13, 12, 11 as they got to the playoffs. And in the playoffs, they played a lot better in defense. But they haven't played good defense like this early on in the season as far back as I can remember. That's always been the emphasis, and it just never gets there. But the Nuggets have been doing it almost on both ends of the court to the best of their abilities and showing other teams that, hey, we're just not just an offensive juggernaut. We could play defense too. Nikola Jokic effective field goal percentage is right where you would expect it to be. Best mark of his career, 67.5%, which is crazy. The problem, what is wrong with the Nuggets or Jokic this season is the fact that his free throw percentage is, one, not as high as it typically is, and he's not getting as many attempts. So that's a little bit down this season. So a lot to get excited about for a team that, is trying to get a lot of their young players, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther blew up, and he could be one of the best role player coming off the bench, providing some scoring. I'm a Gonzaga guy, as you guys know. So I love when we got Julian Strawther. Did I think he would be this good, this quick? And I'm still pumping the brakes because it was only one game, but still, that the ceiling on that kid is going to be wild. Texan girl, KCP with almost averaging 2 steals, looking like his early days at Georgia. Yeah, KCP, he was clutch last night with how he was able to shut down. They had him on Steph quite a bit, and Steph was kind of struggling to get some of the shots that he typically likes to get. So, KCP, you got Aaron Gordon. The fact that the Nuggets are just such a bigger team than most other teams that they play against. It's the mismatches, the switches, the way they run their offense. It's the most unguardable offense in the NBA. And so I feel like no matter what happens, they can always win those games, and the grindy games. Last night, when you need to get in a rock fight, a really gritty game, close game, they can win those too. They proved that in the playoffs against some of the best teams in the NBA, some of the best players in the NBA. So they've picked up right where they left off, and that is why I have them still here at number 1 in my power rankings. So there you have it. That's my list. Currently, by the way, we have Atlanta over Orlando. Atlanta's another team that's interesting. Atlanta has played some decent basketball. They're fifth, by the way, in the Eastern Conference, battling out for that fifth and sixth range with the Orlando Magic, who they are currently up against as of right now. But the biggest thing with the Nuggets is that they have consistency with the coaching staff all coming back. Yeah, and not only coaching staff, but the thing is in the offseason, the Nuggets didn't make any moves. They made they picked up Justin Holiday. That was, that was it. They didn't really. All the coaches came back. All the players came back. They know each other. We talked a little bit about the Golden State Warriors and what Draymond said about, hey, it sucked coming to work last year. The culture wasn't there, and that's really affect our team. Well, if you take that and you think and you say, all right, Draymond, if culture is that important and the consistency and the camaraderie, and you're saying that guys are staying after and being a part of each other's post game routines and hanging out and talking after games and going out hanging out after games, if that matters, then the Nuggets are in a great spot, because this team has been together for quite a bit and they love being together. They love, they treat it like a family. Bruce Brown, who left to go to the Pacers this offseason, has mentioned it. This was the closest knit family he's had, and they're still family. So, there's something to that. And when you have teams that, can't gel and can't get that, that's why I feel like the teams like the Clippers, who just brought in James Harden, who have a lot of personalities in that locker room, there's just certain teams that I just feel like I don't know if they can say that they have that kind of cohesiveness with their team. Let's see. I would like to see a backup center who could get legit play a few minutes while Joker. Yeah, Cuban, I'm with you, man. I'm with you, because this month is going to be taxing. I felt like Joker, and part of why I think he's missing these free throws is the fact that he's tired. He's putting this team on his back and putting all these points up because he needs the help. And he's running. He was running the floor last night, going up on a breakaway against Klay Thompson and some of these other. I'm like, damn, man, that guy, he's working. So being able to give him, that's another aspect. 7 games in 9 nights, and they're still 8-1. This is wild. But the fact that they can't trust anyone. They're trying to get Zeke Naji up to speed. They can't get it from DeAndre. I love DeAndre Jordan, but he's just not at a point where I feel like he can offer a ton. Even on the defensive side, I feel like DeAndre can have some breakdowns, but he's in there for his rebounding and just to give Joker a little bit of a break. That's pretty much it. But that being said, I'm with you. We tried going with getting some big boys to back him up, and they just end up being, I think maybe it's the expectation. Maybe it's the expectation of whoever we put in there isn't able to run the offense as efficiently and effectively as Jokic. And so it's maybe you just run a smaller lineup for a short period of time, get Joker his rest, and you're able to maybe play a little small ball at that point to where, you could do something a little bit different. I don't know. We survived last year doing that. So